Women administrators in epigraphic sources, AD 600 to 1200. Abstract. This article attempts to reread the narratives of political and administrative achievements of women and their contribution in early medieval India through inscriptional sources. It looks into the aspects like what contributions females made towards socio-economic and political developments when they were given a chance to hold the administration. Various rules of succession have also been commented upon. Their roles as independent rulers or as regents has been studied in several dimensions. This article has also tried to find through inscriptions the administrative efficiency of females working at various levels of administration, from a ruler to a governor or from a feudatory to holding the responsibility of a village head woman or a man. Important conclusions tend to justify as well as negate certain preconceived notions regarding this age, Dark Age, as well as regarding those female rulers who got lesser or no chance to get mentioned in the pages of history. Indian society has generally respected its womenfolk. Indeed, she has been adorned with various titles. In religious and spiritual fields, she has been given ample opportunities to show her abilities. But the issue of political rights of a woman is not uniformly codified in Indian legal texts. The political arena that was open for her via the Sabha and Samiti in early Vedic times was closed in subsequent centuries. The notion that women are unfit for political leadership is an attitude found far beyond ancient South Asia. The conservative attitude of the society could not produce a conducive environment for women's ideal development in the administrative field. The Santi Parva of the Mahabharata accepts women as political heirs only in the absence of male heirs. Kautilya declared that in the event of the king dying intestate, the minister should invest with authority a princess or widow of the late ruler, to ensure continuity of rule succeed in her own right, but just as the widow to wield the authority, till a son was begotten and was duly crowned. Her role was that of a regent only. Never was it the case that women by birth lacked administrative skills, but with the development of family institution, complexities grew in her political and administrative participation in state affairs. Though there had been no written law which made them ineligible for political succession, but women faced various obstacles in choosing a political career. A few historians put forth the dominance of patriarchal society as the foremost cause that prevented females from participating in political affairs. Others credited it to the female herself, of being the fair sex. Moreover, warfare and internal security were considered as male-oriented activities and women were not considered fit to assume these roles. The natural tendency of society became to safeguard its womenfolk from the clutches of mleccha aliens. So, more restrictions were imposed during the period of decentralization of states and foreign attacks. In this article, we have tried to reread the narrative of political and administrative developments of females in the early Middle Ages through inscriptional sources. However, literary sources have also been simultaneously consulted. Our main focus was to analyze the contribution of women in early medieval Indian polity. If ever she was given the chance to rule, what were her approaches and contribution towards socio-economic and political developments? Various rules of succession would also be commented upon, as many females survived their husbands after death. In the royal household, she was sometimes provided with the opportunity to rule as an independent ruler, or as a regent. To what extent was she able to understand the contemporary politics? Many historians have opined that administration is a field where women have contributed very little. They hold patriarchal society, or sex of the female, as the responsible factor behind it. A few also put the blame on low education rate due to early marriage. Overall, the history of woman has remained a history of deprivation. As marriage and motherhood were the prescribed vocation for a woman, her mental makeup could not think beyond these limits. But our history is witness to spectacular records of those female rulers who, when they came to the fore as administrators, excelled in the field. On many occasions people chose woman as the administrative head of the state. The history of the early medieval period also abounds with instances of women who had excellent administrative talents. Among these, first come the Bormakara queens of Orissa. They succeeded to the throne 6 times, one after the other. A more refined example than such a succession of a series of women is hard to be found in Indian history. Various orders and charters issued by them showed their seriousness towards administrative affairs. The state even relied upon their women folk as governors, feudatories or village heads. Many females acted as successful and popular heads of their respective provinces, districts or villages. Their number in the south even exceeded the present number of female civil servants in India. We shall start from the oft-recurring names of Bormakara queens, where no less than 6 queens adorned the throne and ruled over Lower Orissa between the 9th and 11th centuries. These queens were Tribhuvana Mahadavi, the first, Tribhuvana Mahadavi II, Gauri Mahadavi, Dandi Mahadavi, Vakula Mahadavi, and Dharma Mahadavi. Some confusion prevailed on the question of the succession of these queens earlier. That uncertainty was resolved by the discovery of the Taltali plate. According to it, Dandi Mahadavi was succeeded by her stepmother Vakula Mahadavi of the Banja family, who in turn was succeeded by Dharma Mahadavi, the donor of the plate. This record helped to knit together ties of succession of Borma queens that extended over 6 generations. From the genealogical table given in the plate, it can be inferred that 4 female members successfully ruled the Borma kingdom after Subakara Deva IV, who possibly left no male heir to the throne. Furthermore, Dandi Mahadavi was succeeded by her stepmother. From the copper plate, the genealogical tree can be chalked out. The Santigrima grant of Dandi Mahadavi found in Cuttack district of Orissa, belonging to the 8th century, also conforms to the line of succession chalked out in Taltali plate of Dharma Mahadavi. It states that Subakara III was probably succeeded first by his mother Tribhuvana Mahadavi, the first, alias Sandagora, the first, and then by his young son Santikara III. Paramabhattarika Tribhuvana Mahadavi was said to have had been requested by the feudatories to assume the reins of government. D.C. Sarkar further observed that Santikara III married Dharma Mahadavi, while Subakara IV had 2 queens, viz. Gauri and Vakula Mahadavi. Both of these kings apparently died without leaving any male heir. After the death of Subakara IV, the throne passed to his queen Gauri. Queen Gauri was succeeded by her daughter, Dandi Mahadavi, who issued the charter under discussion in the year 180, that is, AD 786. We also know that this queen was succeeded by her stepmother Vakula Mahadavi. The throne next passed to Dharma Mahadavi, queen of Dandi Mahadavi's parental uncle Santikara III. Verily this inscription adds to the information provided by Taltali plate. It speaks about the wives of Unmatasima and Santikara Deva II. Also, it helps in clearing the ambiguity related to the date of the reign of Tribhuvana Mahadavi and Dandi Mahadavi. Another inscription of Orissa, dated AD 764, speaks about the identification of the husband of Tribhuvana Mahadavi, the first. It is the first inscription which brings attention to Tribhuvana Mahadavi, the first, as the wife of Kusu Mahara. Some more information is found about the genealogical description of these Kara queens from Kumurang plate of 10th century. This inscription, like Dhenkanal grant of Tribhuvana Mahadavi, shows the seriousness of these Bormakara queens in the administrative affairs, as she issued orders to various officials regarding the collection of Upperika. The accuracy of the grant also suggests that with the successive rules, administrative maturity also succeeded from one to another in Bormakara queens. No reference is found about whether these queens also acted as governors of the provinces to get administrative experience, which we usually find in case of the princes who were to become future kings. However, their observations on revenue matters are highly appreciable. Also the control of these queens over their Mahasamantas, Rajaputras, Antarangas, Uparikas, Vizyapatis and Kumarimatyas is clearly noticeable. These ruling queens also kept themselves updated about the movement of their armed troops. Dandi Mahadevi's grant of the year 180, which is preserved in the office of Collector of Ganjam, is dated to AD 786. This grant first enumerates the genealogical tree of Bormakaras up to the reign of Dandi Mahadevi, and then it proceeds to provide information regarding the knowledge of the queen about her officials and armed troops. From the above inscriptional data on Bormakara queens, it can be inferred that it was in the absence of a male successor which gave the chance to the female queens of Bormakara dynasty to rule. The question of non-adoption of any male heir has been pointed out by many historians, but inscriptions nowhere point out that governors, feudatories or people of the state ever demanded for a male successor. Perhaps the capabilities of the initial Borma queens attracted the subordination of feudatories towards them, and they did not insist upon a male descendant. Later their interest in power politics grew up to the extent that even aged queens ruled over the state. These queens were not only efficient in the administrative and revenue field, but they also shared military responsibilities. Tribhuvana Mahadevi, the first, was endowed with many qualities of head and heart as described in the Talcha grant of Subhakara Deva IV, and she carried on the administration of the kingdom very efficiently. She also suppressed rebellions firmly. Similarly, the Kumarang grant of the year 187 informs us that Dandi Mahadevi successfully subdued the formidable and hostile kings by her prowess and secured the borders of her kingdom. It can be said that Bormakara queen's regular succession to the throne was an exceptional instance in the patriarchal society of early medieval Orissa. Although we have a number of other references of queens who ruled, but such a case of continuous female succession is exceptional. The rule of Queen Dida from Kashmir is another example. She outshines her contemporary kings of northern India as an energetic and powerful queen who ruled over the destiny of Kashmir for nearly 1/4 of a century. That is, 23 years. She was married to the Kashmirian king Ksmagupta. During the lifetime of her weak and effeminate husband, Ksmagupta, she was the virtual head of the state and wielded sovereign powers. On the coins of Ksmagupta the letter D is prefixed to the name of the king, meaning Didaksma, which became the nickname of the king, casting reflections on his political impotency as against his all-powerful queen who acted for him and ruled like the real king. No wonder then, if on account of her valor, political astuteness and masculine traits, she was styled by the people as King Dida during the lifetime of her husband and during the regency of her first son Abhimanyu and grandson Nandi Gupta. Her religious donations even became part of her diplomatic moves. The Srinagar Buddhist image inscription of the reign of Queen Dida, now preserved in Sri Pratap Museum, Srinagar, is of AD 989. The inscription mentions Queen Dida with the masculine epithet of Divu instead of Devi. In this record also, Queen Dida was mentioned with masculine epithet Rajan instead of more appropriate Rajni. Besides the Borma queens of Orissa and Dida and Shugandu of Kashmir, there are some queens who did not get their due place in history, yet their contribution to the development of their provinces was commendable. One of them is Rudrama Devi of the Kakatiya dynasty, who ruled over Andhra region from AD 1199 to 1261 along with her father first, and then from AD 1262 onwards as an independent ruler until her death in AD 1289. Cynthia Talbot appreciates her ability as a king not only for retaining her throne, but also for defending it from all threats for such a long tenure. She has cited a number of inscriptions which have been issued by and during Rudrama Devi's regime. Like Queen Dida, she also acknowledged herself with the masculine version of her name. Nyakara system is considered as her main contribution to the political and administrative system, which later became one of the distinguished features of the Vijayanagar Empire. Akadevi and Mayilaladevi of Karnataka are also among those rulers who did not get their due place in the pages of history for their achievements. Various inscriptions state the territories administered by Akadevi and Mayilaladevi. Their seriousness towards the administrative affairs led them to be appointed as the provincial heads. Akhadavi was a Chalukyan princess who ruled over various divisions of Chalukya dominions, such as Banavasi, Kisukadu and Masavadi for nearly half a century. She is described in inscriptions as fierce in battle and as having subjugated a large number of enemies. The seat of Akhadavi's government was Vikramapura. She seemed to have married the Kadamba chieftain Mayuravarman, and along with him she ruled Banavasi in AD 1037. In the series of inscriptions belonging to Akhadavi, first come 3 inscriptions from Hattur of the reign of Jayasimha, found in Dharwar district, stating that at the time of endowment to be chronicled, Akhadavi was ruling the Banavasi 12,000. An inscription of AD 1050, found in Dharwar district, registered a gift of land by Akhadavi. It speaks about the large territory administered by Akhadavi. The last line of the inscription suggests that a Mahasamanta was subordinate to her. The Sudi inscription of AD 1051 also gives a description about the area being administered by Akhadavi. It begins by stating that their reigning sovereign was the Chalukya Vikramaditya I, and the Kisukad 70 was being administered by Akhadavi. Religion and administration seem to have held symbiotic relations in the case of royal females. Akhadavi, of course, was no exception to it. Most of her grants were issued for religious purposes, sometimes to the Brahmanas. There is a long list of queens who administered both large and small provinces. The Bore State Museum plates of Kambatu list Siriyadevi or Sridevi and Mahaladevi taking part in administration of the small kingdom of Sherval. Laxmadevi, the favourite queen of Vikramaditya I, held several important posts in the administration, including the governorship of the capital. Mahilaladevi, one of the queens of Samsvara, the first, held the important post of the governor of Banavasi 12,000 in AD 1054. She was the daughter of Vikramaditya I. Various inscriptions throw light on her administrative capabilities when she was ruling the Banavasi 12,000. The Tilvli inscription of the reign of Samsvara, the first, of AD 1052 speaks of the above stated fact in consonance with another inscription of AD 1053. Besides temples, Mahila Mahadavi also gifted land for gardens and an oil mill. A Bombay Karnataka inscription of AD 1094, in Bijapur district, speaks of this fact. The Momigati inscription of the 49th year of Vikramaditya I of AD 1124, found in Dharwar district of Bombay Presidency, introduces the Kadamba feudatory Jayakar II and his senior queen Mahilala Devi, the daughter of Vikramaditya I, as jointly ruling. In the same inscription of the time of Vikramaditya I and the Kadamba Jayakar II of AD 1126 comes a very clear reference of the area which was being governed by Mahilaladevi. It records that Mahilaladevi made the present grant while she was in Kunda, and gives a description of the area in the following words. Being in Kunda, while ruling the 900 of the Konkan, the 30 of Anukulan Sabi, the 30 of Kontakalai, the 500 of Hanungal, the 30 of Utsugram Kadaravli, the 30 of Palalgund, the 70 of Velugram, the 500 of Haiv, the lakh and a quarter of Kavadi Dvipa, so as to suppress the wicked and to protect the eminent, in a reign advancing in a course of increasing success as long as moon, sun, and stars, with the enjoyment of pleasant conversation. Such a large description of the area allotted to a queen makes it clear beyond any doubt that society of the Deccan region permitted its females to rule at various levels. The inscription at Narandra tells very highly of her capabilities, her marriage and her virtues. In fact, this inscription seems to be completely dipped in praise of Mahilaladevi. But it is highly surprising to note how historians forget to give her a due place in the history of the early medieval period. Even the contemporary literary sources speak very less about her contribution. A large number of passing references to several queens ruling over certain territorial divisions prove their ability in the administrative field. Some of them are cited here. For example, in AD 815 reference to Paramesvara Palavadi's wife Gavaganab ruling over certain territory, and another woman Madarikal Nolamba Madev's name in ruling capacity was found. Besides, An inscription of AD 900 from Sir Talyuk of Karnataka very importantly speaks of 4 queens with their territorial description as by Jamadavi, ruling Baraga, Paramahadavi, ruling Dharmavol, Akab, ruling Sayara, and Domab, ruling Trayalakavol. An inscription of AD 918 found in Shikapur Talyuk of Karnataka speaks at length about Jakayab's administrative skills. Inscriptions from Hunsa Talyuk dated AD 92,034 and AD 997 speak of Pampa Devi and Paramab as rulers. Bali Devi, a senior queen, seems to be ruling in AD 1087 in Chalagir Talyuk of Karnataka. An inscription of AD 1089 speaks of a feudatri's wife ruling over certain territory. Further, an inscription of AD 1120 from Bela Talyuk of Karnataka speaks of Santala Devi assuming the crown. An inscription from Marsaigir Talyuk of AD 1136 speaks of Bamala Devi governing the Asandi 500 and 300. An inscription of AD 1138 tells about Kalakya Tribhuvanamladiva's queen Patamahadevi ruling over the same territory as in previously cited inscription. An inscription of AD 1190 of the same territory states that the Hoysala queen Amadevi was ruling over Darasamudra. An inscription of the 12th century found in Dharwad district referred to Jikalamahadavi, the queen of Vikramaditya, as governing a territory, the name of which is lost. It can be observed that the process of decentralization, which started after the death of Hasa, prevented India from becoming a single entity under any single monarch, but it could not refute the women's claim of administering small provinces. Many brave and able women, during an emergency, came out of the curtains, saved their kingdoms and the people and restored peace. They succeeded to the throne sometimes after the death of the king, either as a ruler or a regent queen. Although the instances of regency, especially of queens assuming the charge of administration, are very few, but they do occur many times when the king died leaving behind a minor heir. When the ministers did not find a better alternative, they requested the widow queen to rule as a regent. But the point which needs consideration is that women of the royal household were definitely provided with administrative and military education, both at their maternal house and their marital house. They remained continuous participants in state affairs. Although they are shown, in both literary as well as in inscriptional sources, as busy most of the time in religious and welfare activities, but without the education of statecraft it was not possible to acquire expertise in state affairs at such a short notice. Therefore, we find it easy to agree to the view of Tripate Sharma that these regent queens were not provided due credit for their excellent administration in the annals of contemporary history due to the tradition favoring male monarchs. But the present-day historians have assiduously searched numerous examples of regent queens who reigned on behalf of their minor sons in the history of early medieval period from the 7th to 13th century. In the north, there was Queen Didda. In the south were Tribhuvana Mahadavi, Akadavi and Sembian Mahadavi, among others. Even the western part of India marks the presence of regent queens like Naked Devi, discussed in a later part of this article. In the south, we find the great Queen Sembian Mahadavi living in the royal palace as a widow, right through the lives of several Chola-crowned monarchs, rearing them up and guiding them in the administration and evolving the entire Chola dynasty as one dedicated to the service of God. M. Thiruvarunakalam presents a unique picture of this great regent queen who entered the royal Chola house as the wife of Prince Gandharaditya and daughter-in-law of Parantaka the first. Gandharaditya ruled for a short period after his father left behind his widow Sembian Mahadavi and his young son, later to become the Chola ruler, Uttama Chola. After her husband's death, she was successful in maintaining the peace in the country by temporarily foregoing her son's right to the throne and placing on the throne her husband's brother Arinjayan, who however ruled only for a few months. On his death, again she did not press her own son's legitimate claim but placed Arinjaya's son, Sundara Chola, Parantaka II on the throne. She witnessed his death and the self-immolation of Vanavanmadavi, queen of Sundara Chola and mother of Rajarua. Only then did the crown go to her son, crowned as Uttama Chola. When he died, Rajaru ascended the throne in AD 985. She was responsible as the grand aunt of the emperor in bringing him up in childhood and also for bringing up Rajara's own son, who later was crowned as Rajendra I. The example of such a long rule as regent is unique. Sembian Mahadevi saw at least 7 rulers in her lifetime, although in most of the inscriptions we find her involved in welfare and religious activities. Perhaps she, unlike Queen Didra, did not interfere in state politics. But morally she remained a guide to various successive Chola rulers. It can be well estimated that the burden of handling administrative affairs lay more on regent queens than the directly ruling queens. First of all, being the guardian of a minor son, they needed the support of their ministers to run the administration smoothly. Second, the support of feudal lords was needed, so that they do not rise in revolt. Third, the support of military generals, as a state without a male ruler was more prone to attacks from the neighboring kings. Even the Yadava queens did not lag behind to prove their administrative acumen. 2 Yadava charters from Devali of Ahmadnagar district, Maharashtra of AD 1052, initially speak about the donor of the grant, who is a Yadava king Bilama II. It further goes on to describe the death of Bilama II, before his son Vesuka came of the age. Then his widowed queen Lakkiva placed the minor boy on the throne, taking upon herself the burden of administering the kingdom as regent, rendering yeoman service to the Yadava family at a critical time and thus saving the family from complete extinction. Surprisingly, even in Western India, instances of regent queens are found. Tripate Sharma has cited Naked Devi, Kapur Devi and Minyal Devi as regent queens of Western India. Naked Devi was the chief queen of Ajapala and mother of Mularua II and Bhimadeva II. Mularua II was still a minor when he had to come upon the throne after the death of his father. Naked Devi had to become a queen regent. She was a brave lady who fought against Malayas at Gadurga, taking the child in her lap. It is stated that she was helped in her struggle by God due to her chaste life. But Tripate Sharma credits it to her active control over the kingdom. Kapur Devi was a Kalashari princess of Tripuri and the wife of Kohamuni Samsvara. He had 2 sons, namely Prithvirua III and Harirua. Both were minors when Samsvara died after a rule of 8 years. The throne of Ajmer and Sakambari were left with Samsvara's wife Kapuradevi and her 2 minor sons. She picked up the courage and assumed the charge of administration. The description of the prosperous conditions of Ajmer during the regency of Queen Kapur Devi and the coronation of Prithvirua III can be found in Prithvira of Vijaya. While discussing the Western regent queens of the early medieval period, the name of Minyal Devi becomes evident through the study of Rasmala. Minyal Devi was the daughter of the king Jayakshi of Chandapur. The period of regency of Minyal Devi was a difficult one, but she executed her duties excellently and exhibited rare courage. It was during her regency that 2 reservoirs were constructed and they were named after her, Minyalaja at Virugam and Monsa at Dholka. The most important act on the part of Minyal Devi as regent was the remission of the tax at Baloda on the pilgrims going to Somnath, which yielded 72 lakh rupees to the treasury. Besides these prominent figures, there were many other females who were either provincial or district or village heads. In South India, it seems that people's attitude was more liberal towards their female administrators. There are many instances where wives of feudatories in the south have been given the charge of a few villages jointly or individually. Perhaps, the liberal attitude of South Indian society gave wives of feudatories the chance to have some administrative experience. One of the inscriptional references in this regard comes from Badami. The inscription is dated to the 7th century and it belongs to Vijayamahadevi, the wife of Chandradatya. The latter was the elder brother of the Kalakya king Vikramaditya, the first of Badami. We have 2 copperplate grants issued by her. She made these grants independently without any reference to her husband. This authority she might have derived from her position as Mahasi or crowned queen, as she had actually been called, of Chandradatya. There is another inscription of AD 1182 found in Channayapatna taluk of Karnataka which speaks of an undeclared but specific order of a Chola queen regarding the grant of land to the son of a deceased feudal lord. There is another reference to land grant given by Vasantipuri Chola Mahadavi. She was the queen of Pormakarama Punyakumara Prithvivallabha Chola Mahara. It has been found in Telugu Chola record from Anantapur and Kuddappa, dated to the 7th century AD. The basic independence in the administrative affairs of state or district ruled by a female can be judged from these independent land grants and royal charters. Two grants of the Rashtrakuta Queen Sila Mahadavi need special attention here. First inscription of AD 779, which is found in Nasik district of Maharashtra, recorded the gift of Brihat Pushkarika village in Pratishtana division of Vardhana, to a Brahmana of Kausika Gotra by Dugahasti of Sendra, who was a vassal of the Rashtrakuta family. The charter was drafted by Baladeva Minister for Peace and War, of the Queen Sila Mahadavi, wife of King Dhruva. In AD 786 we find Sila Mahadavi, making a long grant on her own authority again. Obviously, she felt that being the crowned queen, she had an inherent right to issue routine administrative orders without any reference to her husband, or, the latter may have expressly invested her with certain ruling powers, including the important power of making land grants. This inscription was found in Indore. Interestingly, she was neither a regent during the minority of any of her sons, nor an autonomous ruler. Yet she issued a grant on her own authority and without the approval of her husband. This shows that the high-sounding royal titles that are coupled with her name are not an empty boast, but are perhaps a clear indication to the fact that she was a co-partner of her husband in the Rashtrakuta sovereignty. We have a number of instances showing how queens and princesses, in the face of Smriti doctrine of the perpetual dependence of women, exercised a commanding influence upon the administration of the state. Princesses became governors of the provinces and held administrative charges. In the Chilamakaru inscription of Vikramaditya Chola Maharaja II also there is a reference to land grants issued by the queen, Chola Mahadavi, with Uttamaditya as Samantaka ruling at Chiramburu. The above-cited inscription is part of Telugu Chola record from Anantapur and Kuddappa. In the next part in Nilakaru Vipla inscription of Vikramaditya Chola Maharaja II, the Queen Momki seems to be ruling at Ujjaini. No further description of ruler and province is given. Lastly, Shamalaru inscription of Prithvivallabha Vijayadi Chola referred to the grant made by the Queen Mother. All these parts are fragmented records of the Telugu Chola period of 7th century. But our main interest is the names of various queens, donating lands with no interference of their male counterparts. It may be conjectured that the process of liberalization in administration to women had roots even in the 7th–8th centuries, which is generally considered as a period of political upheavals shifting from a centralized system to decentralization. An inscription of AD 766–67 of the Western Ganga king Sri Purusa ruling at Kolar in eastern Mysore, stated that Sri Purusa's queen was ruling Agali. The Salem plates of Ganga Sri Purusa speak of the name of the queen of Dugamara Irui Appa. This inscription is of AD 771, where a reference to Queen Kanchayab, who was the wife of Dugamara, is mentioned and was governing Agali. It seems that after Sri Purusa, his son Dugamara Irui Appa came to the throne and he gave the province Agali, which was being ruled by his mother, to his queen Kanchayab. Next comes the Karaglu inscription of Permanadi of AD 920 found in Periyapatna taluk of Mysore district. It speaks about the ruling queen Paramab, the wife of Butchuga, in the following language. While Permanadi was ruling the kingdom of the world, Irui Appa ruling the Kongal Nadu 8000, and Saramab, Butchuga's queen Paramab ruling Kerglu. No specific identification of the designation and area is given in the inscription, but it does not lower the value of Paramab's being ruler of any area. In the Hulgar inscription of Kotiga found in Mysore state, it seems that the husband was a feudatory of a king. He identified the genesis of an administrator in his wife and granted land to her for administration. The object of the inscription is to record the renewal of a grant by the daughter of Danapala, that is, Ankabarasi, to the temple of the goddess Polungurab. The next inscription is of Dorayu of AD 997 found in Karnataka, which speaks about Pampa Devi. Regarding the entry of women in administrative and political arena, the viewpoint of A. Padma needs elaboration. She opined that the feudatory chiefs were away from their kingdoms for most of the time, either by participating in the wars for extension of their area of control or helping their emperors in the campaigns for administration of their domains. They depended mostly on their ministers and officials. Under such circumstances, perhaps, their wives began interfering in the administrative affairs of their kingdoms. Sometimes, they had to assume the role of sovereigns in the absence of a male successor, or as a guardian of a minor son in the event of sudden death of the king, to ensure continuity of political control. In addition, constant wars might have damaged the peaceful life of the country. Administrative and military training was necessary for queens who were left behind so that kingdoms may not go to the ruins. Thus, it appears that women's involvement in the affairs of the state was almost continuous, which has not been highlighted so far. This could be due to the fact that the traditional society would not readily accept the authority of women in politics. So far as the case of direct ruling of princesses and queens was concerned, there are many inscriptional instances where right to issue orders by the queens also confirm their direct and active participation in political affairs of the state. But possessing land as a ruler individually was altogether a new feature. It was perhaps the beginning of administrative training. Sometimes it started from a village, then to a province, and at other occasions it was joint ruling with the king. A Bombay Karnataka inscription of 9th century found in Dharwad district tells about the wife of Inda who is described as Prayatanayatma of Moghavasa, named Goindab, who was administering the village, Divijari. In Hebel inscription of AD 975, the queen Bujjabarasi comes out as ruling the village of Patu. She was the grandmother of Rashtrakuta king Bhutaya. Another inscription of AD 1076 from Dharwad district belongs to the reign of Samsvara II. It registered the gift of 10 Gadyanas out of 500 Gadyanas for Pavitrirahana of gods Swayambhukalid as women, etc., by Sigaladevi, the daughter of Ahavmaladeva and younger sister of the king, who was then administering the Agrahara of Nidagundis in Kisukada 70. She was being imparted administrative training by giving her an Agrahara as an experimental field. It was a dual effort of satisfying the female urge of being administrators that kings and feudal lords provided them digistatus over small pieces of land which were given to women who had some interest in administrative affairs, while their religious spirits were also kept high to divert their attention. In the series of ruler females, next comes Reva Kabarasi, who was the wife of a Dandanyaku and she herself was governing over Banagola. This inscription of AD 1025, of the time of Trayilokimla Samsvara, found in Rika district of Karnataka reads, Reva Kabarasi, wife of Dandanyaka Vavanarasa, as holding the office of Mahapasayite and governing over Banagola. An inscription of AD 1028 of Banavasi speaks about Western Chalukyan Queen Kundala who was ruling over Banavasi. Besides it, the inscription speaks of Kongalva princess named Padmala Devi, wife of Rajendra Chola Kongalva ruling in Coorg in AD 1077. Similar inscription of AD 1080 found in Dharwad district speaks the same thing, where a queen was ruling a town and Mahajanas and Sethis made gifts to a temple. Krishna Murari has cited an inscription of AD 1107, discovered in Bellary district of Karnataka, in which a Chalukyan princess made a revenue grant. It reads as, at Chinnatambalam, Malayamata Devi sanctioned the following grants out of the revenues of the village which was under her direct rule: 8 Gadyanas to the expounded of the commentaries, 8 Gadyanas to the reader of the Purana, 12 Gadyanas to 2 teachers Kandikas in the Rigveda and the Yajurveda, and 2 Gadyanas for the Brahman attending the sacred fire, 30 Gadyanas in all. Through the distribution list of amount of revenue of the village to various readers of commentaries, Puranas and Vedas, the understanding on revenue along with religious matters of Chalukyan Queen Malayamma Devi can be ascertained. From the above analysis of inscriptions of early medieval period in collaboration with certain literary references, a few observations could have been made possible. 1. Women used to get education in administrative and political fields so that in the time of any crisis they could deal with emergency. However, it was mostly confined to the royal class like queens, feudal ladies and petty landladies. 2. The vast number of inscriptions dealing with administrative capabilities of women on various levels invite enthusiastic admiration. The misconception of historians calling early medieval period as the Dark Ages in female history, as it was deeply related to non-limitation of education and marriage at early age, cannot be supported. It is very interesting to note that while the concept of direct ruling of female queens existed more in the south in the early medieval period, the rest of the India was almost left barren in such instances. But regent queens are found almost in all parts of India in this span of time, that is, from AD 600 to 1200. 3. The only flaw which is noticeable in inscriptional study on administrative capabilities of women is that they seem to be more inclined towards religion and welfare activities. Femininity cannot be an excuse behind it, but it was part of politics of ethical codes of the Smritis which describe a religious-minded woman as an ideal of Indian womanhood. The language of these inscriptions makes it clear that these feudal females had been represented as religious-minded who were continuously donating land to increase their religious merit while administering. In the history of early medieval India, people of the south have shown a remarkable confidence in females. Scores of distinguished and brilliant women administrators tend to prove that there was no dearth of qualified ladies with good capacities for governance.